It's the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. I'm Laurie Rivers with you, here to help you with some inspiration to get those aspirations out into the world. And as it does every Monday, the podcast has dropped, and it is Christmas Day. Whether you celebrate this religiously or you celebrate it culturally or you don't celebrate it at all, I want to wish you a happy holiday. Or just a regular Monday. Happy day to you. Now, you might be going to work, you might not. You might have the day off. Are we having some cocoa? Are we having some cocoa? Are we having some cookies? Or are you in the kitchen baking, cooking, slaving away over a hot stove? Are you ready for Uncle Bob to show up with all the opinions? Or is that Aunt Mary? I laugh. I'm on my own for Christmas. You'll be like, oh my God, Laurie, that's so lonely. No, it's not. It's the first Christmas I've spent really by myself, or at least Christmas Eve, because I am going out today with my boyfriend. We're just going to make a day of it. But this is the first time I haven't been cooking and arranging and managing and emotional laboring. Oh my God, in more years than I'm going to admit to. And I'm not going to lie, I could get used to this. Now, I am still wrangling dogs, and you may hear a squeak, a woof, a howl, a bark, a growl, or scratching or something in the background. You're welcome. It's been a wild and crazy couple of weeks. And my Christmas present will be my son-in-law coming back and handling all of the animals because I got work to do. I thought I would give you some good news. I know when Matilda and I did our episode together that we said there wasn't a lot of silver linings in 2024, and it is a pretty interesting year because it's a pivot year. It's a year of very fast and rapid closure as we move forward and build the future. And it's something else. But there are some very good moments. And that's what I want to talk about on this episode. I want to talk about the moments that we will have that we can kind of grab as we go along the way. There's some real magic to be had in 2024, and we want to be ready for it. So that's what we're going to talk about on the podcast today. I've got Kaycee Felton-Lui with me today. She's got the podcast Petty Astrology, and I am honored to be her first guest. And you'll find out why it's called Petty Astrology. But I was her first guest for season 2 that she'll be releasing sometime this week. And we were talking about spiritual awakenings on her show and my thoughts on that and experience in helping people through that for a very long time. And I had her on my show because I want to promote her podcast. Kaycee has been apprenticing under me for the last several years, and she is an astonishingly good astrologer. And she is very heartfelt, and we talk about really what kind of brought her to all of this. And it's a very deep and it's a great conversation. I couldn't really find a good spot to end it. Like I was just going to put half an hour in. And I couldn't, it's all such a congruent conversation. I couldn't find a good spot to cut it out and put the rest up on the Patreon. So we're just going to put all 51 minutes in, and you can listen to it while you're baking, cooking, driving, dealing with kids in the back seat. Are we there yet? Or tuning people out that you don't want to listen to. I'll also fill you in on the full moon in this episode because that full moon in Cancer is packing a wallop. It's packing a wallop. It's really something. And it's definitely, we're looking at a chapter end and we're looking at building new foundations with this full moon. And so I have already talked about it in the Patreon. I gave the Gemini Crunch Report and the full moon outlook, and I'll be recording a meditation, fingers crossed, for patrons so they can kind of align into their most receptive, highest benefit type energy, like be ready for the good stuff, because as chaotic as the world can be, it can be a good place. And I talked about that in last episode. I know you guys have been busy, but, go on, go listen to that episode. I find it funny. It's the one I gave a positive title to, and it got the least amount of listens. Once again, I want to thank you wherever you're listening from. I appreciate you. I love you. And I want you to know that you matter. You matter deeply. And you matter to me. And you listening to the podcast means a lot. If I can give you a little bit of hope, give you some information, give you a heads up, help you navigate these crazy times, then I'm doing my job in the world. So thank you. And of course, to patrons, because without you, there is no me. And of course, we will do our patron shout outs. Don't forget to use your discount codes. They're there for you. And I don't know about you. I'm ready for some energy to change, and change it will in 2024. But first, let's talk about that full moon in Capricorn. And thank your lucky stars. It's not anywhere near Pluto, so we don't have to worry about that. But it does offer us a chance to build stability. I'm going to talk about that up next. Let's talk about that Cancer full moon at 4 degrees and some change. It's almost at 5 degrees. Remember that a full moon happens when the sun and moon are in opposition. And the moon has no light of its own. It sheds the light of the sun. It reflects that. And full moons are always harvest time. It is harvesting. So you don't need to manifest anything. You need to be open to seeing it. And you were planting some seeds back when the moon was new in Cancer. Way, way back. About 6 months ago. So what's up with this full moon? Well, I think we're going to be seeing routes to stability if we keep our eyes open for it. It's kind of interesting because we will have Mercury conjunct Mars. So the day itself is going to be a little crunchy, but on a personal level, and that's what I want to talk to you about, what you can do with it. Okay. You need to have your eyes open for pathways that give you a strong sense of stability and connection. We do not always get what we need from the people we want it from. We don't always have that connection. We don't always get along with the people that we're related to. We don't always get the support we need from the people we love. We have to give that to ourselves. And one of the things Cancer energy does, and boy do I know this one because I am one, is we hold on to memories. And we can really, and everybody can do this, we hold on to memories. It's not just about grudges. It could be the nostalgia, like making things out better than it was, making things out idyllically, like there was a golden age. There's never been a golden age. There has never, repeat after me, been a golden age. There have been times where we have been blissfully unaware of the reality in the world, of the hard truths. We don't always get what we think we want, but there is always support available in some space. But if we're constantly saying, not you, I want it from here, we're missing out. And I'm not saying take less than you can get, but I'm saying you need to pay attention to what is available, because it's not second best. It isn't. As a Cancer sun with a Libra moon in my 11th house, I adopt friends. I will see people that I really like, and it doesn't happen all the time, but I will see people I really like, and I'll say, you, yes, you, and I'll tuck them under my wing, and like the mama hen that I am, and they become family. I haven't always gotten what I wanted or even needed out of certain family members in my life. In fact, I've often had the opposite of what I needed. So I learned to make family. And the holding on to the things, the hurt, the stories of hard done by, brokenheartedness. As much as we talk about hoarders, and you think of cancers as hoarding things, we can hoard memories, we can hoard emotions. And this full moon, it's a time to release that. Let go of it. Let go of it. Not all of it is important. It's not your identity. If you want to see the potential or the new pathway or the space to take your next steps, you've got to let go of the hurt you're holding on to. If your third grade teacher told you you couldn't write, what did they know? You were in third grade and that was a crappy teacher. If you want to be a writer, then the thing you need to do is practice writing, right? Holding on to a memory of something that happened 25 years ago is probably not to your benefit, right? Or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. You get my drift, right? It's really, really important with this full moon to have an eye to creating a new story forward. How can you create and nurture your pathway forward? Maybe there has been some doors that have shut. Maybe some windows have closed, but there's a way forward. You might be disillusioned by your government or by the people who represent you or how you thought the system was supposed to work. You might have found out that a lot of the rhetoric was, less than truthful. And we might see some bombshell headlines coming out on the 26th or early 27th. That doesn't mean it absolves you from taking action. It doesn't absolve you from trying to make things better. We're on the cusp of great change. I know you feel like you're right in the middle of it, but boy, you ain't seen nothing yet. There's more to come. We're closing down chapters and building new things. And Cancer is as much a builder as Capricorn. But if it holds on too tight, it smothers instead of nurturing. And you need to nurture your vision forward. We've got Mercury conjunct Mars. And that, my friends, that is taking ideas and putting them into action. And you may have tried to throw away a goal or a hope or a dream, but that wasn't it. You weren't supposed to throw it away. You weren't supposed to throw it away. You just have to do it differently. My daughter, I've been talking about her a lot because she's halfway across the world right now. Exactly, because she's in a time zone that is 12 hours, exactly different than mine. And she's in her grandmother's country, and she's reconnecting with family. And I sent her there first because her grandmother was from the Seychelles, her grandpa was from Bahrain. And I said, go there. I know they love you. I know you'll be welcomed with open arms. They've been waiting for you. The other part of the family, I don't trust them as far as I could spit. And they think I somehow don't remember. I have a Cancer Mercury. Trust me, I remember everything. She'll be going there too. And she'll be fine. She's my kid. She's well prepped. We were talking about how far we've come, all the things we've gone through. And sadly, we've been getting information that has filled in a lot of blanks for us because we kind of tumbled through time and space and ended up here. Some by providence alone, and some through really hard work. 9 years ago, in a few days, we took our first trip to LA. I thought we were crazy. I was scared to death. I'd never driven that far. And I certainly hadn't driven in the infamous LA traffic. And I didn't even know I was going to pay for that trip. We had meager funds. We made it work. We've come a long way in the last 9 years. A really long way. It's often been her and me against the world. When you have a dream, a desire, and it's not like we didn't give up on it a couple times. We've been in our pity parties. Hopefully, luckily for us, not hopefully, but luckily for us, we've never been in the pity party at the same time. But sure, there's been times we've wanted to give up. And when I say we had no resources, I really mean we had no resources. There were times where we seriously didn't know how we were going to eat, My favorite Christmas story of the two of us, besides when she turned 5 and I crocheted every ornament for that tree until my hands curled, because she was just sure Santa couldn't find her because we moved halfway around the world. We were really in dire straits in 2016. It wasn't looking good. And we were in LA. We were living in Koreatown, and I was trying to build a business in Corona, and it was not working, and it was falling apart. And not through lack of trying. And I was trying so hard to be on my feet before I ended my marriage to her stepfather, because I knew he'd be petty about it, and he was. And it was hard. It was really hard. And we had nothing. I mean, we had a little bit. I had enough for gas. We scraped the rent together. But it was pretty hard. And she was mad at me because things weren't working out. Again, this is 2016. And I managed to get home around midnight from trying to pull off some stuff, get things organized for the new year in the office. And I was trying so hard. And she had been out, and she'd come home early because she wasn't feeling it. And we kind of bumped into each other. I had bought these stupid headbands. Like dangly, like reindeer horns and things like that. And we had argued earlier in the day, and it felt awful. And then we handed each other, or when we bumped into each other, I went to the car and I got the headbands I got us. And she had the cute ones and I took the wiggly ones, and we walked up to the Denny's on Wilshire. If you've lived in Los Angeles, you know where it's near the Wilshire Theater. And that's what we did for Christmas that year. It was the least ostentatious. It was the most meager Christmas. I wasn't cooking a feast. And even when we were broke, I cooked a feast. But not that year. It was a good Christmas. It was a good time. We're not religious. There's too many to choose from in our family. Too many traditions. And that's not one we've repeated. But it was a moment where we could look at each other and hold hands and say, hey, it's going to be okay. We didn't give up on the dream. And we're a hell of a lot closer to fulfilling it than we've ever been. We're still building. We're still growing. If you're in the Patreon, I've been putting pictures up of her travels. She's being restored. And she's able to build a pathway forward for herself, filling in the holes that were left from a very abrupt leaving of everything she knew. Doesn't mean she doesn't love her mother, but that was it. That was all that was left of what she knew, It was not easy. I'm saying all of this to say sometimes it's a long game. And we're not going to see resolutions that we want to see happen overnight. This full moon is happening in an early degree. Every sign has 30 degrees, 0 to 29. Every degree has 60 minutes, 0 to 59. This full moon happens at 4 degrees, 53 minutes. We're seeing the leaves or the shoot of the plant that we put into the ground as a seed. We're not seeing the full harvest with this. We're seeing proof that our idea can work. So we need to nurture it and tend it with love and care. We need to make sure it gets the right water amount, Don't overwater it. Don't guard it in the middle of the night. Let it rest. Let the sunlight hit it in just the right amounts. Cancer is a nurturing energy. We have to nurture our dreams, our hopes, our vision. And it is a very long-term project. And it's at the beginning phases. Chapters are ending. And if you read books, remember, a chapter doesn't end 3 pages in, usually, right? It's starting to close those chapters, and we're starting to build anew, and it takes time. If we're going to say Cancer is the mother energy, mothers don't just mother babies. That's the easy part. If you've got babies, you may not agree with me, but trust me, I've raised 2 kids. And I'm just as close to my son. It's just a different part of the story. It's a lifetime. It's a lifetime. The intensity changes over time. But this idea that you're done parenting at 18, I don't know who came up with that. That's a very American concept. Now, you're not in charge of them. But it changes. You become a guide and a mentor. And your kids guide and mentor you too. We're not meant to live separately. We're not meant to be thrown to the 4 corners of the earth away from one another. We're not meant to, have these nuclear things. It's just our society destroyed extended families. Because when you have people who are interconnected, they're able to build together. They have strength in numbers. And so if you isolate people, if you disenfranchise people, then that happens. And so you'll be like, oh, you sound like a conservative because they're like, foundations, focus on the family. And yeah, they don't mean what I'm talking about. They want a patriarchal view. But at our core, as human beings, we're designed to be social. We need connection. Why do you think so many people are depressed? They're isolated. And we've had this forced socialization in ways that's inauthentic. Nurture your dreams. Nurture your dreams. You're not supposed to do it alone. Find community. If you're a patron, come into the Discord. Okay. We'll see how the plans go for everything next year. I don't know if I said it here. I know I've said it elsewhere this week, but if I was going to write a book, it would be, this wasn't in my plans. Really good at making plans, and then the world does something else. But nurture your goals with this full moon. Okay? Nurture your goals. Now, what will we see in the world with this full moon? Well, it's probably going to be kind of cranky. It'll be very emotional. We're going to see some international issues, especially with Mercury conjunct Mars. We could see some action in the Red Sea. I think there's some stuff going to go down in Asia, to be honest, especially towards evening in the United States. We can see stuff in the Straits of Taiwan with the Philippines and China. There's a lot of action happening in there. There's probably some maritime issues. Again, like I said, Red Sea. We could even see stuff going on in the Mediterranean, but I think it's really more in Asia, looking at the charts. If you want to know the full thing, it's in the Crunch Report. Anyway, let's do a patron shout out. And at the end of the podcast, I'm going to talk about the dates you want to look forward to in 2024. Things we get to look forward to. And we'll do our patron Q&A as a patron-only podcast. All right? Okay, let's get on with it. Let's do some patron shout-outs. You heard the music. It is that time, and I want to thank each and every one of the patrons. I'm not kidding. Without you, there is no me, and I want to thank you. You know, it's a wild and crazy life, and I spoke to myself a lot in the past. Having an audience really helps. I tried to warn people, get people ready for years, but to have people who actually want to show up and hear what I have to say and get information, that's amazing. So if you're a patron, make sure you're in the Discord. You know, I know it can be overwhelming. You're like, I don't know, do these people really want what I have to say? Yeah, we do. Introduce yourself. Come in, practice. I know Discord's wonky. If you're afraid to get into the Discord, you know, interact with each other in the community chats in Patreon. It's the Awake Space is more than just a place for you to consume knowledge. Okay, if you really want to get good at what I'm teaching, you got to make connections. All right, we've got the newest patrons: Joni, Raquel, Steph, Alexandra. I'm gonna get this wrong, but Elizabeth, Zulma, Ashley, Kim, Anita, Lindsay, Jessica, Dora, Denise, Myra, California, Roberta, Andy, Jamie, Joanna or Johanna. You're going to have to tell me someday. Stephanie, Lex, Holly, Taylor, Catherine, Melissa, and Robert. Thank you so much for being our latest patrons this week. Big shout out, big hugs, happy holidays, and all that stuff. Coming up next, you're going to hear astrologer Kaycee with me, Kaycee Felton-Lui, who is the host of Petty Astrology, and I'm very fond of. She's one of my apprenticed astrologers, and she is cooking well. She's a whole breakfast now. She's not just a pancake. If you've been wanting to study astrology with me, stay tuned. Those classes are going to be up soon for 2024. We're going to get some intermediates going, getting some more cohorts started, and we're going to progress the last cohort forward in their learning journey. I like to do cohorts because it's fun to have people at your level with your interest studying alongside together. All right. Well, I think you're really going to enjoy the interview. Right, I've got Kaycee Felton-Lui with me here, and she is the host of Petty Astrology. Welcome, Kaycee.
Hello.
The tables have turned again.
I know,
Back
it's
on
almost
my
like
podcast.
Yeah, deja vu I'm having right now.
Right. So we just actually are doing back-to-back recordings. We'll just unveil the mystery here. I was just recording an interview on your podcast.
I know,
And,
wild.
And you said it's the inaugural episode for season 2 of Petty Astrology?
It is. Yes, we just did a 2-part bonus episode on the astrology of Britney Spears. And now we're kind of launching into sort of the longer term vision for the show. I know that we'll do other bonus episodes, but probably in the future, most of those will be kind of folded into the episodes. But I kind of want to show people what else I have to offer in this realm. Season 1 was kind of for fun. And then
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hey, actually.
So season 1, you goofed off with friends about, and it was still good astrology,
Oh, yeah.
but about Love Island, your guys'
Yes.
guilty pleasure.
Yes. I don't think any of us are guilty about it at this point. It's
Oh,
just like our, mania for British reality television. But we had a lot of fun doing it. And for me, it was a challenge because it was a show that is on 5 days a week. So it's a lot of footage to review, and then to get together and record every week and then edit that episode week after week. I just put myself on a strict timeline because that's how that show operates. And so I was like, well, let's see if we can do it. And I did it. So I think that was kind of the litmus test. Yeah. For me, I was like, I guess I can have a podcast. And so it made me think about what else I might want to do on that podcast. So it's going to always have some pop culture mixed in there, but I think it's always going to have a wider aim than that. So I'm excited to show people what else I can do.
That's cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and the cool thing about astrology is that you can cover anything using astrology, because, a coffee cup has an astrology chart, everything, a date, an event, whether it's mundane or personal or cultural. It depends on the type of energy being expressed, whether it's the, collective unconscious or the deeply personal and conscious. And even the Britney Spears, that was a social commentary as well. That was really important to you. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think everybody knows who Britney Spears is. We've been well marketed over the years, and it's been since 1999 was when she kind of became a household name. And the more that I've learned about her over the years, the more interested in her I've gotten. I was the right age at the time that she kind of came on the scene to be marketed her stuff and her music. And I always really I love a good pop song. So I could always appreciate her on that level. But hearing more about the conservatorship that she was under and her own statements about how she was manipulated into that situation and how she feels that it was completely unjustified and a failure of the legal system. And so I was interested in that aspect. And then she put out a memoir. And so it was like, finally, there was more of a complete picture. And I felt comfortable talking about her at that point. It wasn't something that I would have done had she not written that memoir, I think. But we do have a birth time for her. So it was something that I could follow the astrology as I was reading the memoir. And she's been working pretty much her whole life. And I think that there's a lot to her. And I think that because she is a pop performer, that she's been kind of put in a box in terms of how she's supposed to behave and look. And the more times that she's not been able or willing to do that, I think we've seen these social repercussions. And so one of the things that really bothered me about it was that she has been kind of written off as crazy ever since she, kind of started going down and being bad Britney. There was like a period where things kind of turned and she was having a lot of personal struggle, and she made headlines for doing a lot of outlandish things. And then when you actually look into the story, there's quite a lot going on with her. She was not well treated in her childhood. She grew up in a very chaotic environment with a lot of substance abuse going on and instability. And meanwhile was a working child. So she's experienced a lot of
exploited.
Yeah.
She was always exploited.
So, hearing her talk about it in her own words, it interested me from a mental health standpoint. And I think also when we label people, even if they're celebrities, I think it says something about us. And so I really wanted to look at her from just a human to human perspective and talk about her experiences. And of course, it's called Petty Astrology. So we're always having a laugh about it. I had Jen and Mackenzie on. So it's, your 3 apprentices going at it and hive minding, something that we all care about in different ways and similar ways. So it's always really fun to have those conversations. And especially, I think I love having conversations about pop culture that are really deep, because I think it's easy to trivialize stuff like that and dismiss the actual impact that it has on us collectively because it's pop culture. And so astrology, I think, gives us a way to do that and to really see the bigger picture. Yeah. So it was a pleasure to talk more about it. And I think it's relevant to a lot of people, even if you're not necessarily like a Britney stan.
Right. Well, I think also, like, one of the things you kept talking about, you know, amongst us, was your desire to show her as a human being and how women are labeled crazy, you know, when they are having pretty normal reactions to outlandish treatment.
Yeah,
You know,
she was going through a divorce with a relationship that the public really shamed her for, because she married somebody that was kind of a nobody, and it turned out that he had kids with another woman and she didn't know about it. And so I think it was the failure of the marriage, and then her aunt passed away from cancer, and she had a lot going on at the time where she had these very public meltdowns and cut all her hair off and was shamed heavily for honestly just really like changing her appearance and being upset that paparazzi were constantly swarming her. I mean, to just a degree that she has said that she has social anxiety. So for somebody that's going through grief in a number of different ways, who's also a new mom, who's also being surrounded by mostly men with cameras that are goading her and trying to get a rise out of her, it makes so much sense.
She was very young. Yeah, she was very young, and she was sexually objectified since she was a child, you know. So I could see why you'd shave your head. I would too.
Yeah, and she says that in the book. She's very, there's a real maturity, I think, to her memoir, and you can just see that she's been through a lot, and she's had a lot of time to reflect on how she's been treated as a woman in this industry. And I think she sees the sexism very clearly. And, you know, there's a lot to learn and kind of contrast and compare with where we're at now. And some things have changed and some things have not changed as much as maybe we'd like them to, but.
Yep. Yeah. I love that. So this season 2, you're really kind of going down the rabbit hole of spiritual awakenings and talk about that. What do you want to do this season? What's your goals?
So season 2 is going to be very segmented in the sense that I'm probably going to be changing it up week to week. There'll be stuff that is kind of in the rotation. Like I will, of course, be talking about astrology and using the current energy and transits that come up that I think people can take advantage of. I will be talking about that. I also want to show people conversations like the one that we had about spiritual awakenings, a place where people can get grounded astrological and spiritual information and have conversations with people that are in that space, that maybe even if we have different perspectives, there is something to take from that. And I also want to do a segment that is basically like an astrological advice column where I'll be taking my patrons' questions. I have a voicemail line for my patrons where they can leave me a voicemail, and they can do so anonymously. So they don't have to air out all their business, but I have a voicemail line where they can leave me a message, and I'll pick voicemails from that line to answer using their astrology. So I think I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think there'll be serious stuff, there'll be funny stuff, but it'll all be kind of in that realm.
Why did you choose the name Petty Astrology?
That's actually probably the first thing that I'm going to be talking about on the podcast. But to me, things that are petty, usually that means trivial or unimportant.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've come to find is that some of the most trivial and unimportant details end up making quite a big difference. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it all has to be the big in your face, showy stuff that can change us or have an impact, right? It's often just those really simple things and those simple details. So that's part of it. I wanted to have a space where it was okay to kind of bring it down to the micro level. And not everything has to be profound to be important.
Mm-hmm.
And the other part of it is that I think it's okay to be a little petty sometimes. I think that actually, I think gossip can be constructive. I think it can be useful even. And I have a lot of thoughts about it. So it also leans into that for me. It's like a lot of things that women are interested in are considered petty and unimportant, like gossip. Like gossip is traditionally, it's a women's thing, which is, if you know any men, is bullshit. Men love gossip.
That's bullshit. Yeah.
Right. But because it's feminized, it's, not very valuable. And, it's important to, I think, have those spaces where you can kind of lay it all out on the table and get a little gritty, get a little petty with it. And I think it's clarifying. I think it's a little smelling salt maybe. So I wanted to honor that. I want to honor the fact that I'm kind of down here on Earth and it's all petty and it's all, important.
Gritty and petty. There we go. I love that. So now when are these airing? Are you starting these in January or are you starting your season just in December? Have you picked your time?
That'll be coming out this week. So it'll be dropping. We'll see. It's just the holiday week, so I'm not gonna say exactly what day it'll come out. I think I'm gonna kind of feel it out just because it's that time of year.
Well, that was something we talked about when you were like putting it out, and I was like, since you don't, you're growing, you're starting. You can. I played around with the dates and times for this for like the first year. It came out when I could make it come out. Damn it! Now I'm like, shit. It's Sunday. I gotta record. Except it's Friday, and I'm ahead of it.
I'm excited to be experimental with it, and that's the other thing is that I put out to people, even the people that are signed up for free on Patreon. I sent out a suggestion box if there are topics that people would like me to talk about, or if there's a particular chart somebody wants me to read, as long as there's a birth time, I'll consider it and stuff. I want the audience to be able to play a role in the production process. So that's why I'm making it an interactive experience, because I want it to be a back and forth. I want it to be a conversation and not just, me saying stuff in the void, right?
Makes it easier.
Yeah.
Although I talk into the void all the time. That's how I started mine, but
yeah.
Mostly because people didn't listen to me for a really long time. No, it's because people didn't listen to me for a really long time. Try talking about stuff for 20 years going, guys, you need to hear this. And people are like, la, 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 la. So I was like, well, fine. Nobody listens to me anyway. I'm just going to talk into the void. I'll listen to me. I didn't expect this to do anything. So, and you're like, what kind of astrologer are you? This is what people say now. And that person who thinks they're my nemesis will be like, see? They can't see my smile, but it looks like the Grinch's grin. No, you don't always see. Yeah, I like that you're playing around with it and having fun.
Yeah, I think that.
So what are your go ahead.
I think that just, podcasting is still a space where there is a lot of openness and creativity because it is easy to produce. Like why am I going to confine myself to doing what everyone else is doing when I can play around with it and maybe we can find something that you can't find anywhere else and kind of create something special. So I'm open to how it evolves.
It's kind of fun to watch it evolve too, I mean, again, I started out in the backyard with my phone and then the donkey next door braying, the dogs barking, and just telling stories, and then people were listening. I was like, oh, maybe I should do something with this thing, So I like that you got your Patreon going. I did my job as a Patreon ambassador and
you did.
Gave some advice of what not to do. Yeah, don't be like me. I was like, don't do what I did. Don't make that much work for yourself. I just about killed myself on my Patreon the first 2 years.
Yeah, it can be a big commitment. It was very helpful to have somebody that knew what the process of having a Patreon was like over the course of years. So having that bird's eye view was really helpful in getting mine set up. And so it's set up right now to support the podcast, and it's kind of the community around the podcast. And then I've also made a space where we can meet on a monthly basis for people that want to do some manifesting together. We're going to do that, but otherwise it's very podcast oriented, and that I think that'll be.
I love that you're doing that. Yeah. I'm a proud patron of yours.
You are. In fact, you're a producer.
I am. I'm a producer.
You're going to produce your
Me and
own
everybody
episode.
else in LA.
Right.
That's right. Right. Me and everybody else. Yeah, I got on your show because I'm a producer. That's how it works.
Right.
No, it wasn't part of it, but I was so honored you had me on. So thank you. It's not an expectation, so it's always fun to be on. I love being a guest.
Right.
It's nice not to have to be the one who edits the episode.
Oh, it's so nice. You just get to walk away and you're like, bye. Have fun.
Bye. Have
listening
fun.
to that.
Yeah.
For days.
Days on end, maybe hours.
Yeah.
For one line that you keep missing every time. Yeah.
It's a process. It's definitely, having a podcast and producing a good podcast is a lot of work. And I think that is an important thing.
Whoa. Who said it had to be good? No,
yeah. Yeah.
I never promised good here.
It's
you get what you get and you like it.
Right. They gotta leave it.
It does. It takes a lot of work. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a Cancer. You're gonna eat what I cook. No, kidding. This is not mom joke. No, it does. I don't think people realize how much goes into content creation.
No,
there's a lot of mental energy and
it's a whole job. If you're doing it on a regular basis, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the Dire Straits song "Money for Nothing."
Yeah, I mean,
they aren't working.
That was part of the reason why I decided to make the Patreon, because I did see that first season how much effort it was, and I knew that I wanted it to be a show that had, a wider appeal. Obviously, it was just for fun. It was very niche first season. Somebody said that they were like, "Oh, I don't I don't watch Love Island, so I haven't listened to the first season." I was like, "Oh, don't worry. It's not going to be, I don't think we're going to do that again." And I kind of tried to prepare people for the fact that it was going to change. Even then, even when I didn't know where the show was going, I was like, well, if I continue doing the show, I want people to know it's a variety show. It's not going to be the same all the time. Every week is not going to be the same episode. So I tried to prepare people.
It was a test.
Yeah, it was a test. But it was a test that I had the foresight to be like, by the way, don't get too comfortable.
Right.
Don't
Right?
get too
It's not always
comfortable.
going to be this. Just
Yeah.
wait. She's
The
got,
show,
yeah, Mars and
yeah,
Gemini. You're going to switch it
right,
up. You're
right.
going to switch it up. You're not going to keep it. Like if you had to do the same damn thing over and over, you go crazy.
I would, and that was the
So,
big realization. That's why I specifically designed it that way. Thankfully, I've been made aware of myself enough because I've girl bossed before, and I'm girl bossing right now in a very different way. But I used to girl boss in a very traditional way, and I was in those corporate environments that were kind of draining, and so liberating myself from that. I'm like, hey, it's my own podcast. Why am I going to force myself to fit into a box that it doesn't really affect anything? And so as of this new season, it'll be a different show. It'll be more consistent in a way, in the sense that I'm crafting segments that you'll see in a kind of on a rotation. So I think this will kind of, for people like, what the hell is going on? I think this will be kind of the start of a, this is where I'm getting serious now. And that was the Brittany episode, was kind of me like, okay, we're going to do the podcast, like for real. And I'm proud of
your
the first season.
Your numbers are good too.
Yeah. But for just starting.
Yeah.
For just starting. Yeah.
Yeah, they're damn good.
I have patrons. I'm like, I was really pleasantly surprised at how many people joined. Like, I knew that I was like, I know I have some people that care about me that are going to join. So, it's not going to be empty. But I was very overwhelmed with gratitude, because that many people are actually actively investing in what I'm making. And that means so much to me.
Yeah. Isn't that a nice feeling? That's why we do
huge.
patron shout outs here. It's because without patrons, there is no show. It's I'm not going to do this. And I don't want to fill it full of ads too, because technically you can choose who aligns with you and who doesn't. How many corporations do you think are going to align with either one of us? You know? By the way, the barking is Oda, if it's picking up on the mic, and she has a lot to say. That's my grand dog, and she is annoyed that she is not in here with me on my lap, and I don't want her on my lap, and she can come in later. So you're welcome. All animal noises are free.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is an amazing amount of work to come up with the ideas, and it's not, and then the recording.
Yeah. And a lot of the podcasts that people listen to, I don't know that they realize that at this point there is enough of that kind of infrastructure, I guess, that there are people that have teams that help them make their podcasts, that put them out, publish them, manage a lot of the social media, things like that. So
they have engineers to do the audio. They've got,
So for people that are even smaller operations than that, I think it's really important to just have the awareness of how much work it takes, and obviously to support those people. If it's something that you are aligned with and you want to see more of, unfortunately, with the way things work, the financial support helps us pay our bills so that we can keep making stuff for people to enjoy. So it is a reality.
Yeah, there's subscriptions, and there's the marketing, and there's all that stuff, and even just the time.
Yeah. But even, I've been thinking about lately, because this year I was on strike for so long, and, I saw people in support of the strike canceling their Netflix or whatever they were doing, and which was not something that the unions asked them to do, but people independently were feeling uncomfortable continuing to support organizations that we were protesting against, which was really heartwarming to see. But I'm thinking, like, now, as people are getting more activated with boycotting and sort of putting their money where their mouth is in terms of their beliefs, what if people did shift that subscription to a Patreon or something like that en masse? Like,
independent creators.
And that's one way I think that we can see a shift in, entertainment culture.
I think, at the Patreon Creator Fest a couple months ago, that's really Patreon's vision. I had the great pleasure of going there, and the CEO got up and talked about his vision, and he's a creator. I mean, he was a YouTuber. He had a band called Pomplamoose, and which is really funny because my daughter was like into it, and she was a teenager, and begged me for money to subscribe or buy something to support the dude, and it was her that pushed me to have a Patreon, even for the astrology, even though I'd had one before and it didn't really do anything. I'm like, I don't want to. No, she was right. She's double Virgo. She was right. I'm really passionate about it. And as you know, I'm an ambassador. I don't get paid to be an ambassador. I get to test out product, like when they're doing, like, working on stuff. And they exchange with data and other good suggestions to help grow. And I get to pass those on because I believe if we want to defeat Goliath, our slingshot does not hold a stone. It holds collective connection and collective good and helping each other. And so I hope a lot of people get their Patreon started. Was just on the phone with a colleague who's setting one up, and it's important with Pluto coming into Aquarius for us to support that which we want to see more of. Boycotting is kind of like, you got positive vibes and negative vibes. Boycotting is like, we don't want this. Supporting what you do want is more of the more positive vibe. Like, here, I'm going to take this money from you because ick. And I'm going to put it over here, which is yum.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of that too.
So Kaycee's yum.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of that too. People wanting to support Palestinian businesses and, putting their money behind people that are more aligned with them, which I
got some Phil's coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. My daughter ordered some olive oil from a Palestinian family, and they actually got some out from their family farm, and it'll be here this week. I have to go hide it so it doesn't get used. Because she's not here. So I'm like, do you want me to put that away so nobody cooks with it until you get back? She's like, yes. She was really insistent that she was like, hey, we need to get that. I'm like, okay, there's lots of ways. Show your support for things and the people you want to create for. This episode I decided, because it comes out on Christmas Day, and things are subdued this year, and I warned everybody they would be, and that's okay. I mean, the commercial stuff seems kind of obscene, don't you think? Like, when you look at, like, there's these brands advertising on TikTok, especially like the more, like, the big companies, and it's like the juxtaposition of like lack of awareness of what's going on in the, like it's obscene almost.
Yeah.
Right. But I did think, especially after last week's. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I don't feel like super Christmassy this year. I'm right there with everyone. It's low key.
I didn't even put anything up. Yeah, I'm not a big holiday person in general, but I tend to get, like, just cultural celebration, like, just it's an American cultural norm, because, believe it or not everybody celebrates the same way all over the world. And I lived overseas for so long as a young person. I learned a long time ago, it's just another day. But normally I like some lights. Not this year. Maybe I'll feel like it, but I don't think so. Unless I want them. I'm bored with the background. I know you guys can't see it, but if you're on TikTok, you can see it. The bookcase is cool. And I love the bird. You can't see it right now, Kaycee, but you've seen the bird that looks like it's dropping something on my head. I love that. It's amazing. It's quirky and weird.
It's very cool.
And the armor. Armor. I mean, it's real armor. It's like 17th century armor. It's from the 1600s. It's real cavalry armor. It's fucking cool. I love it how it, like that was my big thing for me. That was me. I've done well. It didn't cost like what you think it might cost. I'm a Cancer. I'm not a spendthrift. But I was thinking, like with things, we're obviously closing chapters, and right now the whole world is closing chapters. We're seeing the end of things that should have ended a long time ago, to be honest. But it is kind of disconcerting. And there's a lot of uncertainty. And even in the astrology, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of, well, it could go this way, or it could go this way, or it could really go that way. But there's some really good stuff on the way in 2024. And for people to hold hope, I think we have to focus on some key points in the next year that offer us something worth looking forward to. And that's what this episode is about. I wanted to give, like last week's episode, and funny enough, hope doesn't sell, by the way. Just want you to know that. One of my lowest ranked podcast episodes was how to have hope. So don't accuse me of fear mongering when I give a more sensational title. People.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating, I tell you. But I do, these are things to look forward to. So what are you looking forward to, madam? What is something in 2024 you're looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to watching people work together in ways that they haven't before. People stepping outside of their comfort zone, seeing where we're at and meeting the moment, finding like-hearted people that are looking to make things better and working to actually make that happen around them.
Why do you think that's going to happen?
Well, with Pluto and Aquarius, I think I'm seeing it right now. I feel like I'm seeing the build up to it, right? With a lot of people being activated by what's happening politically. I think for some people, this is the first time that they've realized that maybe a lot of stuff that they were taught is wrong, and that maybe the things that they were told were the solution, like vote blue no matter who, is actually not going to save them. And so I think people are going to be looking for alternate approaches. And my hope is that people will find those other people that are feeling the same way. And also the people that have been doing this work for a long time, right? The people in their communities that have been on the ground, organizing people and joining with those people that are, they know the lay of the land and not trying to reinvent the wheel, because that's what we don't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time. So I'm looking forward to seeing people step outside the comfort zone and see that they're not alone. It's not all on their shoulders, that it's an us problem.
Yeah, it's totally an us problem. I was really disappointed years ago, 2016. I went to see Dr. Cornel West speak, and he's a third-party candidate. He doesn't have the transits. I want you to know, I have loved this man's message in general since I was in high school. I found one of his books in the high school library, and I was like, what is this? This is cool. And so it was really quite thrilling to get to go hear him speak in LA. And the room was full of college students, but it wasn't as full as it should have been, in my opinion. And everybody kept asking, and this again was 2016. Everybody kept asking him what they could do. They all wanted to be great. They wanted to be like this thought leader, or because thought leadership was big in 2016, but they wanted to be like shaping the world. And I listened, and I was really disheartened because it was very ego invested. It wasn't community based. Nobody was getting to know the person sitting next to them in that room. You have a shared interest. You like what this man has to say. You obviously share values, And I was just, I'm always an observer, right? I'm always watching. And I got up because, you know me, I try to be good and I try to keep my mouth shut, and then I can't. And so I rose up and I said, Dr. West, please speak to these young people about the need to organize and work together and not worry about being the next great leader of a movement. And that the most radical thing they can do is get to know their neighbor right here. Because you got to remember, in 2016, I'm looking at Pluto and Aquarius coming down, right? And he said I was a beacon of light. Oh my God, it was so cool. But anyway, he affirmed that, and he spoke to these people, and yet I still didn't see, like, people didn't get it. And I'm hoping people get it now. Like, this is so much bigger than you.
Yeah.
It's really bigger than you. And it's okay.
Well,
You're not too small, though. It's like a drop of water isn't going to do anything, but put a whole bunch of drops of water together, you have an ocean. And we have Saturn in Pisces, so we have to erode authority. We're not going to be able to take it on with a gun or a knife. We have to erode authority. And then we do that by putting our drops together. So I'm with you. I know, I rambled again. We're never
what are
going
you
to not
looking forward
ramble.
to?
What am I looking forward to?
Yeah.
Pluto getting into Aquarius and away from my Sun and Mercury.
I think we're all looking forward to that.
Fuck.
Get away. Leave Laurie alone.
Leave me alone. It has been, oh my God. No, it's on the separation. So I feel remarkable. But Wednesday of this week, it was just coming off. And the time you feel the most pressure is the day, or not the day, but it's at the just like 1 degree approach and the 1 degree of separation on any transit. But during the exact, it's exact. It's there, But the pressure from both space, so it's usually pressure and then a big release. I had a full-blown meltdown in my shower. And it was over ridiculous stuff, but it included screaming, I'm almost 55 years old. This is bullshit. Partly because of the barking you're hearing. There was a lot more to it than that. But it was just seeing where I'd compromised myself over my entire lifetime. Even though I've had these awarenesses at different times in my life, it was like a solid decision of I shall not. I shall not. I shall not. I will be thinking differently. And using my energy differently. So I'm really excited to kind of take that lesson and move it forward. And we'll see between September and November of next year how well I've learned it, Especially as Mars will be in Cancer November 1st. Mars will be at 29 and Pluto will be at 29 and I'm kind of looking forward to that too, because I kind of want to see what happens.
Right.
But I am looking forward, on that personal level, just to have the pressure. It's been a long year, but there's resolution happening. Been talking about that in my Patreon, the resolution that's happening for my family. That's a long time coming and is still in place. Still lots of intrigue. I'm also looking forward to putting out some really different astrology. Like really useful astrology. And so you've been privy to that, and you're going to edit that book, I'm hoping.
Yes. It's cool stuff.
The Healing the Money Wound book.
I was there for the first workshop, and I know you've expanded upon what you put in that, and that was already really awesome. So I think people are going to really benefit from what you're working on.
Yeah, it's useful. It's not just theory or descriptions. It's like there's exercises you can use, and it's it's something I wish I would have had when I was younger. So like you were talking about, like when we did our interview on your podcast, it was the conversation you wish you could have listened to, right? This is the book I wish I would have had when I was a young astrologer. I'm going to make it, to me, this is like, I've been looking for how I wanted to write about astrology. I didn't want to write like Robert Hand is Robert Hand. He's Dumbledore. He is an amazing astrologer. I don't want to create a book like he created. His books are his. You got to read them, understanding the time they were written in and his age and his cultural lens. But there is no more brilliant historian, and explorer of astrology. I don't want to try to be him. I love him. I don't want to be him. I want to be me. But what did that look like? And I think with Pluto, like, scraping me, we got down to quintessential of, I like things to be useful. I like things to be practical. I don't want somebody to just have a head full of knowledge. I want somebody to be able to use it. And that's what I'm excited for, because that's where I'm putting my energy next year. Is like, shit's gotta like work for you.
Yeah.
Like, I know.
You're
You
handing
can tell
people,
I'm excited about it, huh?
Yeah, you're handing people some really incredible tools that are going to help people meet the moment and make that transition into this kind of new era that we're heading into.
Mm-hmm. 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 And it kind of fills that intermediate gap too, where you know enough of astrology to be dangerous, but you're not quite ready for more advanced work. But even if you're an advanced astrologer, like you understand the calculations and you kind of transits, you understand orbs, but where astrology is lacking, and that's always lacked in my opinion, and my teachers have always encouraged me, including Robert Hand, including Joanne Wood, any teacher I've ever had, said, you need to be working on the interpretive side. We've lacked this. We've lacked good language to give it a depth and a breadth, like, because consciousness isn't static. And so if we're only looking at society and culture through a narrow lens, we don't have this depth and breadth, and it's learning to give it depth, and it's hard to write, but I found a little format. I mean, like, it happened. When did it happen? It happened right after Pluto popped off the opposition to my Mercury, right before it opposed my Sun. And I went, aha, this is how we shall do it. So Pluto gives us gifts. We just have to live through them. How are you feeling with it right off your Venus? Because it was squaring your Venus for like ever as well.
Yeah.
It's separated now.
Yeah, it's been a relief, I think, but it's been a lot of confrontation of my values and changing my thought process about my possibilities. And so, I mean, I literally changed the way that I am earning money now. I have this whole other kind of career that I didn't used to have. And so that was a big transition, and believing that it was something that I could do, on a professional level was a big change for me. And also, I think just reassessing my own ability to contribute something, that I had the ability to use my own voice as an individual. A lot of the writing that I have done, as a professional has been fictional, and so as an astrologer, it's about original ideas, built upon your understanding and your study, but you have to find a voice if you want to share what you have to say with other people. So believing in myself and the ability that I have to even do something like that was a shift that I had to make. And I had to kind of practice it. It's funny because we just had the solstice, and I went back and looked at the summer solstice, and it was so funny because I was not expecting the notes for that day to be, it's not like it was the same day, but even down to the food that I got, because it was an annoying day, it was the same. And I was like working on the first season of the podcast and having doubts about what I was doing. And so it was really kind of, I had kind of like this year, especially, of really like, I'm out of time. So I didn't even know what I was doing on the solstice. I wasn't thinking about the fact that I was just doing season 1 of the podcast. And so to see where I am now with the winter solstice was a little bit trippy, because I was like, wow, I've really stepped into something that was uncomfortable. And it's still uncomfortable. It's still a transition, but I'm actually doing it. And I've, made a Patreon and everything, like I've committed to it in a different way.
Step. It's a big step. Yeah. Well, especially, and again, I ducked out of society and the world, in the early 2000s, not by choice, by circumstance.
Yeah.
I would have stayed in the not-for-profit world probably. I was out of the corporate world. I didn't want to go back to that, but because of 9/11, and needing to homeschool my kids, and there not being any jobs that I wasn't overqualified for, and childcare was not possible. I ended up being independent by force because I was more than well enculturated to work for other people. It's scary to go indie.
It is. Yeah, especially, and after the strike, my money for my adult life has all come from studios, major studios. That's how I've been earning a living as an adult. So to say, hey, what if I made money all by myself? And what if I told myself what to do? I mean, it was a lot to believe, for me.
Oh, I hear that, because what? Yeah, I was about your age when that same kind of life happened. And then I was like, I don't know anything about this. I don't know how to do that, and this isn't safe. And then when I ended up popping briefly back into the working world in 2019 through 2021, just the anxiety of working for somebody else and never knowing, because things were uncertain. It was bad communication lines. It was just really weird. And then when we went to work from home, and with most people not being good online, which I couldn't believe that in tech, I was like, what do you mean you don't? Because I'd run everything online for years. Like, how are you not productive this way? You're a tech company. But the fear of, do I still have a job? Because they didn't email me or call me. They forgot I existed for months on end. And the anxiety of having my fate controlled by somebody else, I was like, oh, it's way safer to work for myself. It was the opposite, the opposite awareness of like, oh, if I'm down, I just need to make more money and figure it out. And that's not where I started.
Yeah.
So you'll get there. You're on the way.
Oh, wow. Here I am.
Here you is. That's right, Miss Ma'am. You guys can listen to Petty Astrology. I'll have the link in. Hang on a second. All right, you guys can listen to Petty Astrology. I'll have the link in the show notes. Kaycee has her Patreon. I'll put that in as well. You can be patrons of both.
You can. Many are,
I'm a
in
producer.
fact.
That's right. She's worth supporting. All of them are. I've told every single apprentice, however you want to go, I will support you. And we're all together still at Woke Astrology as well. And we've got a cool project on the rise. We're still working on it because, time. 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 It's not on my side. Not right now. But Mercury retrograde is helping us out. So make sure you check out Kaycee's podcast and her Patreon. That's the best way you can join for free, and you'll find out when her newest episode drops. We have a great conversation about what it means to be awake and what it is to be awakening. It's not quite what you think. You'll be surprised, maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we'll be like, oh, she's there. But thank you for coming, Kaycee. It's always a pleasure.
Always. Thank you.
All right, I promise some things you can look forward to in 2024. I think those of us who do predictions, obviously we're trying to give you a heads up because we want you as prepared as possible. But for those of you not in the business or you're just learning, I'm sure we freak you out a little bit. I remember how I used to feel as a kid when you'd see those like infomercial type things about Nostradamus, and they'd be all creepy and scary, and I'd be like up all night worrying. So I was thinking, what can I give you as a Christmas present, since the podcast was dropping on Christmas Day and I love to give presents? And I was like, you know what? Let me tell you what to look forward to. I figured that'd be good. So the start of the year, the evening of January 1st, Mercury is direct. All right. So Mercury, we start out with Mercury direct. You really won't feel it being direct until the next day, but that's a great way to start the year. We'll have Mars move into Capricorn, and so it'll be really productive. Like this, Mars in Sag has been about like get your plans in line, get your vision in line. Mars in Capricorn is about get her done. So we'll be a lot more productive. In fact, Mars will sextile Saturn on January 9th. Now, if you get an urge or an inspiration, and you might, because the sun on January 9th will be trine Uranus, and that is unrestricted energy. So you may have an epiphany, an inkling, a wondering, or a thought, just pop into your head, and Mars sextile Saturn will be like, get it done, do it now. If you get any like inklings, take action on those. Mars trines Jupiter on the 12th, and on an individual level, that's great. That's great. That's if you can focus on taking action, that's awesome. And then another great day is January 20th. Now, it's going to be weird in the outer world that day because we have the sun moving into Aquarius, and then Pluto slides in hours later. It could be very, very intense in the outer world, but on the inner world, you could be supercharged, like super inspired. You could have a lot of energy. You may need to burn that energy off. So there is that. February, another really interesting month. And I think for me, a lot of what I see in 2024 is a lot of big weather throughout the globe. Okay, I know we've got listeners in 72 countries. We can expect climate change's impact on everybody. But, humans are adaptable. So there's things we can do. And you can't do anything about what you can't do anything about. You can only do what you can do. You need to lean into your can-do attitude in 2024. We do have Venus conjunct Pluto on February 17th. I think that is a very powerful day to really set intentions. I would use that as a way to set intentions for community, for innovation. You could be very, very inspired. I think that's just a really great day to really sit and contemplate what you want and let it come in. Pluto will get rid of anything in your way if you let it. Okay, so it doesn't mean we're losing. In fact, that could be a rate cut, even. Like the feds could cut rates that day. That'd be nice. In March, March is an interesting month. I've done so many year ahead readings, because end of year. Which, by the way, I'm probably going to close those December 31st. So if you've been on the fence about getting one of those readings, you probably want to book that, because I will close them December 31st. And I'll open them back up mid-year. I usually do them. This year I kept them open, but normally I close them until the solstice, and then I wait till the solstice, so I'm not reading year ahead readings like back to back to back to back, because there's a lot that goes into those readings. I do solar returns. Of course, I start with transits, then I do solar returns, lunar returns for every single month up to 13 months, usually 12, but I've been known to do 12 or actually 13 or 14 months. And then if we've got time during the reading, it depends on how much we chit chat, if we've got time in the reading, I'll look at Venus returns, Mars returns, Saturn returns, Jupiter returns, whatever return is coming up. So it's a very in-depth reading. So you can save 30% if you use the code SLAY, all caps. If you're a patron, you get your special discount. All right. March is kind of wild. I'm not seeing a super juicy day in March. Not saying it all sucks either, but I'm just saying it's a little wild. So hold on to February, and we'll make it through March together. The sun's conjunct Neptune. That's kind of a nice day for magic, That's a good day to do some magic, like to dream into things, cultivate your dreams. We might collectively dissociate at that point. And Venus is ingressing into Pisces on the 11th. So that'll be nice. Venus will be conjunct Saturn on March 21st. That's a good day. Venus conjunct Saturn, you'd be like, what? But in Pisces, it's like grounding the dream, like helping the dream become real, realizing the dream. All right, April. Now, again, you can get the 2024 Year Ahead program that I did. That was 2 hours long. You can find that. I'll put the link up in the bio. If you're a patron, you got the notes for free. The very slides I'm reading off of right now. If you're at the $15 level and up, you got those for free, and it gives you a $10 coupon for the recording. But if you just want the recording, you're like, Laurie, I don't care. Just give me the recording. It's on the link in the show notes. It was a long presentation, but it's a wild year. Now, of course, we've got the solar eclipse on April 8th, and it's really mostly visible, east of the Rockies. East of the Rockies. That's going to have some long-lasting effects. I just think our country is definitely in the midst of it. We got to be ready for some major changes. I don't see a civil war like the way people talk about it, but we're looking at some real upheaval. So that'll be interesting. We got Venus conjunct Mercury on April 19th. That's a great day to speak it into being. And Mars will be sextile Uranus, because on April 20th, Jupiter is conjunct Uranus. Now, I do think the Fed will make some further cuts in April, but this is kind of good stuff that you could really see some magic happening. And I'll do a little seminar probably just about that Jupiter Uranus conjunction. We'll see, like, where, maybe I'll just do it for patrons. I haven't decided. That's April. We're here in December, so I don't know. I'll think about it. Mars is making some big moves that month, because we'll have Mars conjunct Neptune. Mars, it's a very volatile month in the outer world, but in our inner world, it's a really great time to make some moves and lean into your luck. All right. What do we got coming up in May? May, I think, has some of the best days in 2024 on a personal level. May is really fascinating. Now, if they don't cut rates in April, they might cut rates in May. And we've got Venus conjunct Uranus. It's pretty damn good. And then that would be Venus conjuncts Uranus or Uranus on May 18th. And the sun will be conjunct Jupiter. Now, I find it really funny it's happening that day because that's the anniversary of Mount St. Helens. So we could see some seismic activity. We could see some big bada boom energy out in the world. But on an inner level, this could be a really fortunate day. Pay attention to your inklings, your intuition those days. Follow the wonder. We've got Venus conjunct Jupiter on May 23rd, right before Venus ingresses into Gemini. And that's a very mature Venus-Jupiter conjunction. So this is like, make it so, number one, make it so. And then on the 20th, so Venus ingresses into Gemini that day too. And on the 25th, we've got Jupiter ingressing into Gemini. Now, they won't kiss in Gemini at all. But Venus will also on the 25th, before or as she's in Gemini on the 25th, she will be trine Pluto when she's at like 1 degree of Gemini. She'll be trining off with Pluto. That's 1 degree, or it's sliding back anyway, because Pluto will be retrograde and Jupiter ingresses into Gemini. So this is a great time to speak it into being. Speak it into being, my friends. Oh, alrighty. June, we've got Jupiter trine Pluto. That on the outer world, that can be some big shit. All right. Pardon BW. He's very frustrated. He is a Pomeranian and he really needs to run around. And I'm trying to get this done and then I'll let him run around. Like I said, animal noises are free. Coming up, besides that, June, July, August, September, October are all kind of wild. I think May literally has some of the best energy. July is a little wild. And again, we talked about that. Actually, in the Q&A session, I'll talk more about that. And here on the podcast, I always give you updates. So just make sure you're tuning in. I'm going to take a look at July. July has some real volatility, but on a personal level, it's a really good time to kind of like... Venus will be trine Neptune while she's in Cancer, and that's another magical day. There's a lot of magic. There's a lot of magic to be had. Sunday, the 21st, it's interesting. So we end up with 2 full moons in Capricorn because we get it at the beginning and the end of Capricorn. So at the solstice, we've got a full moon, and then on my birthday we have a full moon, and Mercury will be square Uranus, and the sun will be trine Neptune, and Mars will be trine Pluto. It's very volatile energy, but it's also another make it happen, make it come into being. This isn't a time to sit back and be passive, my friends. This is a time to take life by the cojones and run. So it's intense, but it's like, it's go time. Let's see. Other things to look forward to. Venus trine Uranus is another one where you just might get lucky. It might just be a lucky kind of day. Luck is relative and it's based on perspective. Doesn't mean you'll win the lottery, but somebody probably will. Yeah, September is kind of... We'll skip September. We'll just pretend September isn't happening. October and November are also kind of dicey. Yeah, we're just not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about that. Let's see. December. I'm not seeing a lot of good stuff there either. I will say... it's probably another subdued holiday season, but it may be better than the year before. But we'll see. We'll We'll see. I just want to lead you back to May. May is awesome. I think May has some amazing things going on. And if you want to hear the whole lowdown, I gave it in the 2024 year ahead. There'll still be good days for everybody. I'm just talking about the juicy stuff that I see happening because I wanted to give people something to look forward to. Don't be freaked out by what I talked about at the end of the year. It's an election season in the United States. We've got instability around the world. No, Armageddon isn't happening. No, it's not the end of the world. Yes, we're looking at systemic change, and that takes all of us to do it. And I want you to know you can power up in 2024. Pluto in Aquarius is going to behave very, very differently than Pluto in Capricorn. It's a very different energy signature. That's why I'm doing the seminar on December 30th. And remember, you can save 30% when you use the code SLAY. I'm talking fast now because I'm trying to get to the dog that is whining. So, I want to thank you guys for a great year. This is our last podcast of 2023. The next podcast comes out. The next podcast comes out January 1st of 2024 for season 4 of the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. And I'll get you through it all. I promise. I want to thank you guys again. You mean a lot to me. And dogs, no dogs. My God, what a year. But here we are. We've made it through our worst days, and we'll make it through. We'll muddle along together. Thank you. And I hope you have a beautiful day, a beautiful time with your families, or some peace and quiet with yourself. And if you're a patron, again, I want to thank you for your support. If you've been a patron, thank you for your support. If you've been thinking about becoming a patron, thank you for your support. To the people who don't like me talking about my Patreon, well, thank you for your support too. Well, I think it's time to go take care of some dogs. Have a very, very good day. And if you're feeling gritty, I'll probably be around in the evening after I get back from hanging out with my boyfriend. And I'll be in the Discord. Maybe we'll do a live stream or something, or hang out in the Discord together if people need a place to touch base. Maybe I'll play a movie or something. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. We'll find out tomorrow night, Monday the 25th. Or, well, tonight, Monday, December 25th. All right. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in season 4.